What's going on? Good evening, good evening. Change my name.
Hi.
What's up? How you doing, Toby?
Just trying to survive.
I hear that. All right. I'm gonna let Jai in the room and DeAndre, who is going to be introducing Jai as well. Hey, good evening. How's everybody doing? How you doing, Jai?
Good. I'm trying to figure out why my video isn't. Because I saw my video in the test section.
If you need to hop back out or hop out and hop back in, Jai, that's cool. I'm pulling up your deck now. Oh, she already did. Wow. Let's see if that works. There we go.
Oh, can you stop the recording? Sorry, my bad.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah, so we'll give everybody a couple more minutes to hop in, and then we'll get the show on the road, just being mindful of everybody's time. Again, we appreciate y'all. If you have questions throughout the presentation tonight or throughout the town hall, please drop them in the chat. Toby, one of our amazing ambassadors, is going to be helping us make sure that we get all the questions fielded and can get those answered when we reach that portion. And yeah, it'll be a great time. We got a few more people popping into the waiting room. Zoom got a little delay in getting everybody in after I click admit, but it's okay. We're gonna get it going. All right. Shout out to Brian, also in here from M for MM FAMU. Appreciate you hopping on. Jason just dropped in the chat, by the way, for everybody, a link to the Keep Your Promise initiative on SSDP's page, on SSDP's website. Please make sure you check that out if you haven't already. Very, very dope stuff that we're going to get into tonight, but just a little bit more context for y'all there. All right, cool. I'm going to get it started, but also just be mindful of admitting people in. So if y'all see me glancing over, I'm here. I'm just also working on the back end as well. Thank you again, everybody being here. Greatly appreciate it. We have an amazing time for everybody playing this evening. Let me go ahead and make sure I share my screen here in a second. Actually, we can talk like this for a second. Just say hello. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to the FreeThePlant.FYI virtual town hall for the fall semester. We're definitely going to be trying to do this each semester. So this is our fall semester initiative, fresh off of our ambassador workshops this summer. We have a few ambassadors in the building tonight, so shout out to y'all. We also have Jason from SSDP, who has been an amazing support to this initiative and partnering with us. Nadir is on as well, and we'll pop on here shortly to say what's up to everybody. My name is DJ Howard. I am leading the initiative for the Free to Plant program. We are excited to have everybody here tonight. And like I said, we got a lot that we want to get into. We have some amazing guests from Green Thumb Industries as well. So we'll get into a little bit about what's going on there. Shout out Jai in the building. So yes, let's get into it. First and foremost, what we have going on. So for y'all who don't know, in addition to the SMART SSDP partnership for the Free the Plant FYI campaign and ambassador program, I'm also the National Outreach Director for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. So there's a lot of co-work that we've all been doing together throughout just last spring into the summer. Now we're into the fall. It's kind of going by super fast, but definitely honored and excited to be doing this work and to be meeting you all as well. On the SMART side and SSDP, Jason, I'll let you get into the Keep Your Promise initiative here in just a second. But on the SMART side of things and what we're doing with our ambassador program, we're now at the point where our ambassadors are out at the schools. They're spreading awareness on their campuses in different ways. Some of them, like I said, are on the call, may be able to share a little bit later. If you're at a school and don't know who your ambassador is at that school, definitely connect with them and reach out to them. They're a great resource. We try to be as great of a resource as we can to them and make sure that they have whatever they need. SMART also has a job board that is constantly updated, partnering with 40 Tons here. And you all will be seeing that on an update on the FreeThePlant.FYI website as well. You'll see when you go to the section where you can learn about jobs, it'll be updated for the partnership with 40 Tons. When the Deer hops on, he can talk a little bit more about that. On the M4MM side of things, we are going across to different schools doing our safe access clinics and initiatives where we're helping patients and people who want to be patients for medical marijuana get their medical cards at low cost, saves some of those doctor fees for people, educate folks, also provide some swag and some dope bundles and discounts from local dispensaries that we partner with. So we're going around and doing those. We have one in Tampa later this month. We're gonna be in Tallahassee next semester, so look out for that. That's going to be really dope. And then there are a few other schools that we're reaching out to as well. You're probably already on that list if you're on this call, and I'm probably doing some follow-up with you. Shout out to Skiggy in the building. I see Kando hopped on a little bit ago, so appreciate y'all for being here as well. And then now I'm going to kick it over to Jason. Jason Ortiz is our Executive Director for Students for Sensible Drug Policy. Like I said, amazing partner with Nadir and myself on the Free the Plant FYI initiative. Jason, talk to us a little bit about what SSDP has going on, especially this Keep Your Promise initiative.
Right on. Right on, DJ. And we just got a big boost on our campaign, which I'm sure folks heard about, with Joe Biden issuing some misdemeanor pardons for those that had convictions on a misdemeanor federal charge. And so just real quick before I get into the details of that, my name is Jason Ortiz. I'm the Executive Director of Students for Sensible Drug Policy. I'm based in New London, Connecticut, and also spent a good amount of my time in Puerto Rico. Before I came to SSDP, I was the president of the Minority Cannabis Business Association, where we worked on a lot of equity policies across the country. And that's where I got to meet Nadir and a lot of other folks doing good work. And so when I came to SSDP, I wanted to make sure we partnered up, found a strong partner in GTI to make it happen. And here we are. We got a whole HBCU pipeline in the works and things are moving. So today, we are working specifically on prisoner release as one of our top priorities. It's definitely our top priority in regards to cannabis, right? Right now, we have lots of folks we're trying to help get into the industry that are doing things that other folks are locked up for, right? There are actually 2,800, more or less, people in federal prison for cannabis charges. Now, most of them are for sales or cultivation. And so the recent pardon by Joe Biden, while it does help a lot of people, won't actually get anyone out of prison. So for our campaign, we took the win. It was a beautiful day to kind of kick back and actually talk about the nuances of pardoning and clemency and like what actually is happening versus what not's happening. And so it was definitely a victory for the movement that we got the president to move on cannabis policy at the federal level. And it included an announcement about descheduling or rescheduling that we should also probably talk about, that can get a little bit complicated in what that means. But what the president's pardon did do is for anyone that did have a federal misdemeanor charge, for example, somebody that got caught smoking at a national park, That is an example that probably has happened actually a significant amount of times, like over the last 30 years. Those folks would have been denied possibly the right to vote, the ability to get public housing, difficulties getting a job, and a lot of other collateral consequences for those misdemeanor charges. And so it is a big deal that we did get 6,000 people to have a freer, more happy life because of this process. What it didn't do, though, is actually release anybody from prison. None of the folks currently incarcerated, and it's confirmed by the White House that the number is actually 0 of the folks that would get out, are there for simple misdemeanor charges. It's pretty rare to get a misdemeanor that's also a federal offense. And so we still have a lot of work to do. And we actually started this campaign before President Biden's announcement back in September, working with the Last Prisoner Project, which is another great partner of ours. And so Steve D'Angelo, who's one of the founders of that, came to SSDP and said, hey, we got to push a little bit harder on getting folks out of prison. We're getting a lot of traction, but we're not getting any action out of the White House. Let's get together and do something big, do a protest in DC, actually turn up, at Joe Biden's house and let him know exactly what we want. And so we are continuing that campaign. I'm actually going to drop a link to the short Instagram video that we put out the other day, because it has a clip of Biden promising to let people out, right? And he said it in a debate. It was with Cory Booker and a number of other senators at that debate. And so we're going to hold him to his promise, right? Like when you say things as a presidential candidate that you're going to do things, the public takes your word on it. And when you become president, you get elected, we're going to hold you to the account to actually do what you said you're going to do. And so the difference here, though, is instead of taking like a lobbying approach or, kind of setting up meetings with elected officials, we're going to use direct action and civil disobedience to get their attention and go right to the top, right to the White House, and actually make sure that the staff, the president himself, the vice president, everybody knows that we are there very specifically to ask that he use his pardon and clemency powers to release the cannabis prisoners currently in prison. Now, there are 2,800 of them. We're asking for 100 immediately to be released. So it's like less than 0.5% of the amount of folks that are currently in there. Some of the folks in there are there for life sentences. There are people that have had previous charges, then they got caught for simple possession, and it was their 4th time they got caught. Got 30 years, right? There's also folks in there that was the significant other of somebody that was selling serious weight and got caught up in a conspiracy charge and got 20 years for that. Stephanie Shepard of the Last Prisoner Project, who was on a forum with us when we first kicked off the campaign, was one of those people. Her boyfriend at the time was selling pretty heavy amounts. She got caught up in the charge because she wasn't really involved. She couldn't give them any information that could help her reduce her sentence. She got 10 years for that. And so there are folks that are not kingpins, as they say, which is another conversation, that are in there for decades. And a lot of it came from the 90s when President Biden was pushing for more difficult criminal charges on folks. And so he does have responsibility as a senator when he was in there of creating a lot of these problems. And a lot of the laws that these folks are getting caught up on, he pushed for them to be harder. So it's the midterms. We want to make sure we're taking advantage of the political moment, because that is when you hold your elected officials accountable. You don't wait till after the elections to ask them for things, right? You got to ask them before the election happens. And we think he, at bare minimum, knows that he needs to correct the harms of the past. He made it very clear in his statements that he knew that the war on drugs was racist and that it was incarcerating thousands of people. And he admitted that something had to be done. He just didn't do enough for it. He made progress, no doubt about it. We should thank him for that. But with the thousands of people in federal prison and the even significantly more in state prisons, right, we really have to be talking specifically about getting folks out of prison. Out of the 19 states that have legalized cannabis, 0 released prisoners as part of the legalization process, 0 of them, right? So as a movement, we, in my opinion, I will always take responsibility for this, lost our way a little bit where we shifted too much away from criminal justice, where folks that were actually directly impacted by the law enforcement agencies are left out of the relief that is coming from all the different programs. So as SSDP, we want to bring some of the attention back to that of what we were doing, making sure folks know that this is still the case, and providing an avenue and ability for anyone to get involved to pressure the president, your local officials, your local governor, because one thing the president did do is tell all the state governors also to use their pardon power. And so that means, like my governor, Ned Lamont, he has his own pardon power for state prisoners. So everywhere you are, you can pressure your governor at the behest of the president to use their pardon powers to let folks out too. So we have a tremendous amount of work to do. And one of the ways that we can get folks mobilized to do it is to get in the streets, join together, mobilize in big numbers, get some excitement together, and then everybody will see what is possible when we turn up on October 24th and take that back home, bring it to their congressional representatives until we get every single cannabis prisoner home, and hopefully for the holidays. So, we're inviting everybody to get on board. The link to the campaign is in the chat. You can call your own rep. You can come and join us in DC, October 24th at 10 a.m. at the White House. That's the meeting spots. If you're wondering where the party's at on a Monday, it's 10 a.m. at the White House. And then we'll be able to tell folks a little bit more of the details. We're going to have M1 from Dead Prez and Redman there to help us out. We're still collecting more new folks that are coming on every day. So it's going to be an interesting day. We'll see exactly how it goes. But it's only the beginning of what we really need to do, right? Like, this is the spark that will hopefully create the bonfire of folks getting excited everywhere in every state in the country. And after these midterms are over, we'll have a whole new crop of elected officials we got to talk to get on board, and then make sure we keep going until we win.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. So many great things you said there. Obviously, one of the major keys is people can do stuff in their own states right now. They can take action immediately in their own states where they're at to get their governors to push to release all cannabis prisoners in that state. So there's a lot more in addition that you can do as far as taking action. We're going to get into more of that here in just a little bit. We're also going to talk a little bit more in depth about those pardons and answer some questions for you all as well. But first, before we get into that, our special guest, Ms. Jai Kinsey, is here. I believe DeAndre, are you ready?
Come on, man. What kind of question is that? What kind of question?
Of course he's ready.
Jason, I took that.
I'm all pumped up from Jason's campaign. I'm like, I'm ready. We going to DC. I got my Support Black Colleges sweatshirt on. I'm like, look, we ready.
Awesome. All right, DeAndre, before we kick it over to Jai, I know you've been working on, you did your LinkedIn homework, all your homework. Go ahead, that intro.
Greetings, I am DeAndre Smith. I am currently pursuing my doctorate of pharmacy with a minor in food science at Florida A&M University, and it's an honor to be an ambassador for Free the Plant and working with SSDP and SMART. I had the pleasure today to introduce Jai Kinsey. She is currently the director of social impact for Green Thumb Industries. Jai attended Georgia State University, where she attained her BA in journalism. She was recently appointed to the Illinois Women in Cannabis Board of Directors. So let's give her a round of applause for that, because that is an accomplishment a lot of people don't know. Prior to working with Green Thumbs, Jai made a huge impact by implementing strategic communication plans as well as community relations for nonprofit and private companies in the US and Australia, while working for American Red Cross National Headquarters and a young communications group. If I had 3 words to describe Jai, it would be pro-Black, pro-brown, and pro-weed.
Jai, there's nothing for you to say. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I love it. Thank you, DeAndre. My best friend who went to FAMU, I'm told, like, yeah, this young man from FAMU, she's going to be hyped. She finds out that I was intro by someone from FAMU. So that's awesome. No, thank you. So my presentation is really just going to focus a lot on, who Green Thumb is, just so you all can learn a little bit more about the company, learn a little bit more about our initiatives in terms of the social impact side, and yeah, and then also like some employment opportunities, because I want to make sure y'all know that there's some jobs out there. So please apply. So let's go on to the first slide. So again, yeah, this is me, and DeAndre did such an amazing job introing me. I won't even go into like my background because he did such a great job. Thank you. So Green Thumb, we are a multi-state operator, which means that we have multiple locations across the United States. And our focus is really on promoting well-being through the power of cannabis. And we do this by creating, the most authentic cannabis brands. You saw a list of those on the first slide. We have about 7 different brands that we produce and sell at our dispensaries, and creating consumer experiences within our retail shops by treating people well and giving back to the communities. The communities piece is really the part that I lead at GTI. We have 5 priorities within our company. One of them is building an engaged, high-performing team, which is really looking for diverse talent, people who want to come in and be part of this growing field of the cannabis world and really get their feet wet in terms of developing developing new opportunities within this space. Also becoming the preferred choice for high quality branded products. Like I mentioned, we have a number of products that we create and sell in our dispensaries, as well as creating those memorable positive experiences on our retail sides, and that delivering the social change in our communities is really the area that I'm focused on, while also positioning our business for sustainable growth. We are humble, we are hardworking, we are grateful, we are transparent, and we have integrity. And you see that throughout the company in terms of the way we operate. So it's definitely a great culture in terms of working there. The next slide, please. So just a bit of a glance at, like I said, we're a multi-state operator. We're pretty new. And what you'll see with a lot of these cannabis companies is a lot of them are very, very new. So it's a great opportunity now for young folks like you all, and I'll say young because I ain't been in college in a long time. And so the young folks like you all to really come in and just really make your mark and to really create something of your own. And it's like an opportunity to really, I think about back in the day when like Facebook started, or when it's Silicon Valley and the tech industry was so brand new and Jeff Bezos was working out of his garage. Like, we're still in the very infant stages of the cannabis space. So it's a really great time. So just kudos to you all for just even having the interest in joining in, entering into this space and participating in meetings like this to get more information, because it's definitely the perfect time. So as you can see, we started in 2014. We only to this date still have about over 4,000 employees. We are in about 15 states, and we have 77 dispensaries across the US. And we've seen just continued growth in terms of our revenue across over the years. So it's definitely the right time to hop into this space, whether it be at GTI or any cannabis company or your own cannabis company. So definitely. Next slide. This is just giving an overview of our footprint. So we are across the United States. We have one dispensary in California, but across the United States, we have a ton of dispensaries, and we just continue to grow as adult use continues to move forward and to get GTI is killing Connecticut. So I thank you for saying that, Jason. So yeah, no, we definitely are growing. Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York is about to be amazing. So it's a great opportunity, like I said, as you look at the maps across the United States where legalization is happening, where adult use medical is. We are in Florida. Don't give me the line because I don't have the exact city, but I can get it for you. But I know we're in Florida because we give to nonprofits there. Florida, shout out to the Florida Justice Center. They're an amazing organization. So as you can see, we're across the US and we're growing every day. So it's a good time to be in the cannabis space. Next slide. So going into the work that I specifically do at GTI, so I'm the director of social impact, and what I do is lead all of our Growing for Good initiatives that support our community. So I was very excited to see, I'm hitting my 1 year mark in September, and just being able to see how excited GTI, I know, it's like, it flew by. I'm like, whoo, they say cannabis years, 1 year is like 3 years. It's like 3 years in this space. It flew by. But it's been great just being able to work with amazing organizations like Smart, SSDP, and the teams who are truly activists at heart, who are truly people who are champions for the community. And I see that as well within our company. It's not just in my department, but also other departments at GTI where people are just adamant about getting expungement training to support volunteering and activities that we do in the community. So it's definitely something that you see that runs through every single team at GTI. Next slide. So just to kind of give a snapshot, and this makes my heart swell just because I always feel like I always say that a company, our job is to be a resource and a platform for nonprofit organizations in the trenches doing the work. And so listening to Jason just now and the passion that he has for, you know, people who have no voice, who are sitting in prison, who don't deserve to be in prison. Like, it's my job to make sure that I can help support, fuel that energy, fuel that activism. And so it's an honor for me to be in this space at GTI where I can have an opportunity to work with groups like SSDP and SMART to help with programming like this, the HBCU program, to make sure that you all have access to this type of information. And so, yeah, so like I said, our role at the company level is at the multi-state operator level is to be a resource and a platform for the organizations that are in the trenches. So we focus in these 4 areas in our social impact space: restorative justice, diversity, equity, inclusion, community engagement, and environmental stewardship. A lot of our focus is heavily in the restorative justice piece, just because of the history of the war on people associated with this flower. So it's definitely our duty and our obligation to step up and to support organizations that are working to support with the expungement, to fight for individuals to get them out of prison. We provide a grant to organizations that focus on specifically those areas. The Good Green Grant, where we've committed $1.3 million. And I'll talk about the Good Green Grant a little later. But we specifically give grants to organizations that focus on expungement, education, and employment. And then also working with education institutions that are like Olive Harvey College, where we've supported their scholarship programs or their cannabis education programs. Through our diversity, equity, inclusion, we don't just focus on, you know, working with our talent acquisition and people team. We look at diverse-owned businesses, making sure that, you know, like groups like the Illinois Cannabis Training Center, which is a Black-owned, family-owned business here where I am in Illinois, where we can definitely support their efforts to help train people to get into this cannabis industry as dispensaries open on a regular basis. So looking for opportunities for us to do that. So I think about our academy as well, providing contributions to them to help mentor brand founders who are of color, to make sure that they have the resources that they need to operate in this cannabis industry. And then also our community engagement, which really just focuses a lot on our retail spaces, giving back through those. Hey, Illinois. And then also providing, you know, donations to organizations in the communities where we serve. Because we don't want to come into communities and just provide quality product. We want to show that we're here to bring jobs. We're here to give back to the community. We're not the big bad MSO here to sell your kids weed. We're here to also to be a part of your community and show you that we're here to stay and we're here to give back while we're here. So that is a lot of our community engagement. Our employees are incredibly involved in this space. They volunteer hours. They help build habitat homes. They do cleanups to support our environmental stewardship piece. They are extremely active. And so that's something, you know, if people come to GTI, they definitely would have an opportunity to participate in any of our social impact activities as well. Yeah, and then going, I thought I mentioned Good Green. So Good Green is one of our brands that is really, it was a brainchild of our CEOs as a way to give back and to reinvest funding back into communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs. I call it the war on people. That's why I love that poster behind you, Jason. The war on drugs was a war on people, because it definitely was. And I always share this story about my nephew who has the cannabis state level conviction, who definitely has been impacted by that with 2 felonies. And so understanding how these types of organizations are supporting people like my nephew who've been impacted by these, you know, the injustice system, or what I call it. And so it's definitely, and this product, Good Green, is definitely giving us a platform to give back to those organizations that are supporting through education, employment, and expungement. And like Jason said, yeah, there'll be definitely, there definitely will be an opportunity for people who, especially from the federal level, to be able to get jobs and housing, like federal benefits with what Biden has implemented. But on the state level, I think about my nephew where he can't get a job. He's basically working at construction sites, 20 something years old, same age as you all. He should be living his best life on a campus like you all. But because of a mistake he made one time at 18, he now has 2 felonies and is working odd and end jobs just to get by. But not everybody has a family system and network like he does. And so it's our job to really be in the community to support these organizations that are helping individuals like him who should be out there working freely, voting freely, living freely, and not penalized for something that is being freely used across the US. So we definitely have supported a number of organizations that help with some of these efforts, like the Philadelphia Lawyers. It's so funny. Look, maybe I got a new job. Let's see. Philadelphia Lawyers, where they do a ton of expungement work. So if you're in Philly, volunteer, check them out, see what they're doing. They're doing some amazing work. I love working with organizations where the individual is actually someone who's been impacted by this war on people. I think about Why Not Prosper as an organization, a woman who was formerly incarcerated. She started this organization to support women who have been formerly incarcerated. Something as simple as how to get your ID, how to apply for benefits when you get out. I don't know if any of you all have gone to pick up anyone from jail, but I have, and they literally come out with nothing. And some people who have been in prison for many, many years, for decades, come out not knowing how to use a cell phone, not knowing how to use a computer. So a lot of the conversation too that needs to happen around this new cannabis reform that Biden has introduced needs to be, what are those wraparound services to help people once we do get them out, once they are free? How are we going to support them? Because if you imagine someone who has spent 20 years in prison, they come out not knowing how to even operate in this, in this new society. And I think about an organization in our second round of nonprofits, the Grayston Foundation. They have an amazing program. Yes, they have, right. They have an amazing program where they help people over the age of 50 who have recently been in prison. And so, a lot of the programs are really focused on younger people, where their program is solely focused on helping people 50 plus to re-enter into society, to help them obtain a job, to show them how to build out their resume. So we were really impressed with that program there at Grayston. And so a lot of these organizations, please, check them out. Growing Home in Chicago, they're an amazing urban garden that provides workforce development programming. So we really focus on organizations that were helping formerly incarcerated individuals in those areas of education, employment, and expungement. And we've definitely are on track to hit that 1.3 million in funding to support those orgs. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is when I say, come get a job. Come get a job with us. We are definitely calling all curious, collaborative, compassionate, hardworking people who are definitely interested in looking for opportunities at GTI. If you go to the next slide, these are just an example of roles that we have open. This is just a snapshot, but there's definitely more. If you see something, shoot me an email or hit me up on LinkedIn. One thing I will tell you is when I was in college, I was definitely I was probably, I don't know if I could, nobody works as hard as DJ, but I was working as hard as DJ, but I was close. But definitely in college, working 8 internships. I graduated with 8 internships. I went to HBCU in Atlanta, Morris Brown. We just had our homecoming. I know all y'all having y'all homecomings this week, next week, the week after. So happy homecoming week for everybody, month for everybody. But yeah, hustled, trying to get a job. So, don't be afraid to do those cold calls to individuals or cold emails to people on LinkedIn. If you see a job with any of these cannabis companies, please feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I have connections not connections, but we all network within this cannabis space. So somebody knows somebody knows somebody. And so definitely don't ever be shy in that space, because that's how you'll continue to move forward. So definitely those look for these jobs on the website, apply, hit me up on LinkedIn, and don't be afraid to do these cold emails to people you want to chat and meet with on LinkedIn. People love talking about themselves. So 15, 20 minutes. Can I learn about your career? How did you get to where you are? Send a thank you message after you meet with them. And, it definitely will go far. So check this out. And then the next slide, there's a QR code. You take a picture and take you to our jobs page if you're interested. And then that's it for me. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I love HBC. I told you I have on my support Black colleges. I will always be a fan. I love my HBCU. And I appreciate y'all including me and inviting me to this.
Thank you, Jai. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And listen, we right up there, on that hustle thing. We right there. Don't do that.
I don't think nobody can keep up with you.
Listen, I have to get with you tomorrow. It's already been a week, but we'll talk about that later. No, Jai, thank you so much. I know I've probably told you this like 5 times already this week, but thank you so much. Every time we hop on these calls together and somebody said it in the chat, you're always dropping gems. It never ever fails. Whatever you happen to be talking about, I think this is like the 3rd or 4th different talk I've heard from you, and they're all so impactful and just so appreciate you taking some time out to come talk with us this evening. I know there's probably some questions brewing, and that's great. Hold them though, real quick, just for like a hot second. We're gonna get to questions in a second. Toby, help me out, keep me honest there on the questions. We really quickly, because I want to be respectful of everybody's time, I want to go through and talk about some of the things that's been going on the federal level, like we talked about earlier with the pardons that Biden did federally, or President Biden did federally, and then we'll get into like an open discussion sort of question period where y'all can kind of ask questions about any given topic. All right, sound good? All right, so I'm gonna share my screen one more time, and then I am gonna flip it over to Toby to help us out and talk to us and let us know what's been going on from, all things cannabis and federal. You ready, Toby? I got you right here.
So, hey y'all, good evening. Just to follow up, a few things that Biden actually did was pardon all people with simple federal marijuana possession charges, urge governors to use their power to also pardon people at the state level, and initiate a review of how marijuana is scheduled in the Controlled Substance Act.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you very much. So for everybody who had not heard, again, there is some, thank you, Jason, got your message. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's been a lot of, I almost want to call it uproar, pushback, I guess might be the better term. Questions, tons of questions being asked about what really happened. Jason did a great job of kind of outlining some of those things earlier about how many people actually got out of prison with these pardons, and what we're looking to do next, and how it's so important that he urged those governors to take action in their states, and then how it's even more important for us as the advocates in these different states to be pushing legislation and pushing the people in position to actually go ahead and make these changes in our respective states. So stop right there. Questions, we've had a lot of great conversation. Toby, you got something for me? What's up?
Yes, I actually want to share the air with DeAndre. You got a couple of questions for all of us.
Awesome. Thank you for using me first. Jason, you brought up this point earlier, and I wanted to say you introduced yourself so well, I didn't have to do it, but I really commend how you represent yourself and how you use your voice. I never forget it, the last conversation we had with Nadir, and you were just so passionate. And just watching you on social media, you're always really passionate. So I really appreciate you. My question is, I saw one of your posts, and I'll read it, and then you explain it to me a little bit. It says, if you're using this half-blanked effort by Biden to bring up protecting banks, you're what's wrong with the industry. All prisoners out before banks get in. People over profit. Earlier, you alluded to how we have millions of dollars being made in the cannabis industry, and we still haven't even worked on a prison reform yet. How do you think we can bridge this gap and make it equal?
Ooh. So I'll just talk quickly about what safe banking is and why I'm getting annoyed by it. Because I actually do support the law of safe banking, but in the space right now, when we all first got involved, when I got involved over 20 years ago and I got arrested was when, I first got involved, but I got into it for criminal justice reasons. There wasn't an industry when we were first mobilizing. And so it was all criminal justice. We had to do the work to make anything legal, to decriminalize everywhere, to actually create a pathway for folks to start businesses. And I want to see lots of businesses grow. I'm glad GTI is crushing it in Connecticut, and we still have a lot of work to do. And so to see in this particular moment, though, that even some of the equity folks, but also, a lot of folks in the industry, the bill safe banking is being the priority at the federal level. What that bill would do is protect the banks that want to be able to lend to cannabis businesses, because right now at a federal level it's still illegal, so they can risk, enforcement if they choose to bank a federally illegal business. Can be quite severe. It is money laundering if they choose to go after them for that, right? And so that being said, there are 19 states that are collecting cannabis tax revenue into their government coffers, right? Which in theory is also money laundering, right? Because they're taking what they believe to be a federally legal action and using it to pay taxes, right? So the entire industry is one big flaunting of federal law. We all know that, right? And so with the amount of resources and money and lobbyists and time that have gone into talking about banks, I really started to get frustrated that we lost our way in what came before the criminal justice and that there are currently folks in prison. So as MCBA Pres, I also supported safe banking and want to see it happen, but it can't be the only thing that we talk about as a movement every single day. And so when Biden's pardon came out, that was the moment to talk about the nuance of who is in prison, who is not in prison, why are different people in prison, what are these policies? And then somebody brings up, well, what about the banks, right? It's like the banks have plenty of protection. They have plenty of money. If they wanted to do it, they could do it. I'm sick of every single moment being about whoever has the most money and how to get them more money. And so had to push back on it, that this needs to be everybody's federal priority right now, is protecting the banks. And we finally had a breakthrough on the criminal justice side. And the thing that happened was the criminal justice side, because that's what's important to the masses of people. And if you're going to take that win and try to, add your messaging in there to be like, yeah, okay, we did a little thing for the people, but like, now what about the banks? Your focus is in the wrong place, right? It should have been, all right, this is a good win for the people. I'm glad we're reorienting on this. What more can we do to make this a bigger win, right? Like the companies that did that and approached that way, get my accolades, right? But if you're going to turn it around and make it about banks of all things, right? We're talking the big banks. They have plenty of resources. The folks that are sitting in prison right now don't. And it's kind of one of those things that it just doesn't bode well for the community industry interactions. If when the community gets some kind of a win, you make it about money again immediately. And I think that is not going to be helpful for when we do need to get federal legalization and need to get on the same page. The industry needs the people need the industry. And so when folks win something, we should celebrate that, but not always turn around and make it about, well, how are we going to get more money to people that already have a lot of money?
I'm going to take some of these Jason clips and use them as like start my day, because like the motivation, like get up and ready to get it.
And to be clear, though, like safe banking is a good thing. You should call your congressman and tell them to support it, right? But it's not the only thing. Yeah.
Not the only thing. It's not the only thing. POP, people over profit.
Exactly.
Awesome. Toby, got some more for us?
Yes, I do. I know. Wait, DeAndre, you said you had two questions.
I had one more. I'll make it real quick. Thank you, Jason, for answering. Hey, John, my question is for you now. I currently worked at True Leaf. I was an agricultural specialist. It was really monotonous. I love working with the plant, but I have more vision. You know, I love being hands-on with this more vision. Do you guys have opening for positions, maybe remote or just something a little bit more in the industry that you're more progressive versus working on the cultivation side and it's just pretty much, okay, we have the plant, let's go to 45-day process, a little default. Is there anything that you guys have like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that you have that experience of working on the cultivation side. And so your question basically is, do we have anything that's outside the cultivation facility that where you're able to progress in terms of like your role and growing into a leadership position? Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like you know, marketing would be a good place. We definitely have roles there. Our innovation teams, in terms of like, it depends on what you enjoy. Like, one of the things that's so fantastic about this cannabis industry, like I come with 20 years experience of working in the CSR and communication space, where I didn't work in cannabis per se, but I come from the legacy market. My mother sold weed, my brother-in-law sold weed. Like I'm from California. My family has been selling weed my entire life. There's never been a day weed hasn't been part of my life. So having that background, like it trend, and then also my skills in CSR and communication. So looking at like, what do you like to do? You're at this stage in your life where it's like, what do you like to do? And just focus on what makes you happy. Like, because this space is forever changing. And because of that, it's a great opportunity for you to dibble and dabble in a little bit of everything to figure out where is that space that makes you sing, your heart sing. You know, what is that? Like this type of work that I do, I could do this for free. I'm happy I get paid, but but this is the work that, you know, I envision myself doing. Like this is what I love doing. I love hearing, you know, Jason speak and DJ and Adir talking about the people in the community. Like that's what makes me happy. Talking to you all, that's what makes me happy. And so you have to figure out like, what is it that I like doing? Do I like being on the innovative side of developing products and product testing, you know, product design? Do I want to be on the government relations side, working with policymakers to help lobby for change in this industry? Do I want to be on the social impact side, working on community outreach efforts, operations? There's like, you know, tons of opportunities, and everything that you see in other CPG companies is here. And the other cool part about it is because the cannabis industry is so unique in terms of like regulation, working with all the regulators in the different states. There's new departments that are being developed that nobody's even heard of, that are just like, all right, well, we see a need, so we're going to create a department to help fit this need. So that's what I say, like, it's good to get your foot in the door and be that person who can flex. I always say, when you go into it, my granny used to always tell me, go into a job and learn a little bit of everything. And so when you go in there, you can figure out like, what do I like doing? You know, like, so how you had that experience, it's not a waste of time. You got that experience, you found out that that's not what you enjoy doing. And then now you can still take that. You still got that lock back there, that experience, that's yours. Can't nobody take that. And you can go and leverage that to get into something else and figure out how you like that. And then it might come out you working in, I've worked in government, nonprofit, overseas, international companies, pharmaceutical, whatever, you know, private companies. But this is now, I know, you know, 20 years later, it took a long time. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. So you'll figure it out. But it's good to just test out the waters, and this is the time to do that, especially in this industry. But we got a lot of jobs. Like I said, if you see something, just hit me up.
Still
Well,
testing out
thank
stuff,
you.
doing stuff, that trying to figure out what I enjoy and love. So definitely I'll take those opportunities to do that. It's you'll never regret it. You can always look back and say that you have that experience to build upon, even if you know you decide you want to do something else down the road. Enough of my sidebar. Toby, get me back on track, please.
Got you. So I guess this question goes towards GTI. Are you doing any local outreach with HBCUs where you operate?
Is this question for me? Oh, can you repeat it one more time?
Of course. Are you all doing any local outreach with HBCUs where you operate?
I wish. That would be a dream for me. I need to be on campus. I need to be with the band. I need to feel the vibe. I need to,
Homecoming season, turn up.
I
March 100.
I missed homecoming last week. I was like, dang. So no, we are not. But this was the first step in working with SSDP. Is smart in terms of supporting this the ambassador program, and I hope that it can grow in terms of our support. Like I said, I love my HBCUs to death. That will be for life. And so, who is SWAC? We SWAC. Like, this is definitely something that is definitely important to me. And so I really want to expand that outreach. And it'll probably be more of like internships, mentorship programming, and whatever. And like again, we don't, as the company side, we never want to step on the toes of the organizations like SMART and SSDP that are in the trenches doing the work, developing these amazing programs. Our job is to support them through the resources and platforms that they need to push those forward. So wherever they are, and if we're able, we will support them.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Oh, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, that's where this cohort helps us reach out to folks across the country, right? And so we have folks all over the place. Y'all were the first ones. You're the cream of the crop that we're like, nah, we want to support work in the South, make sure we're strong. We can actually, make moves together. We have a lot of work to do in the South, but y'all know folks at other schools, right? And schools in the Northeast and people that want to get involved. And so we start talking second cohort, right? Like we can branch out into the spaces that are a little bit more established and begin to build those relationships as well, right? And so you all get to be the front of the spear, figuring out what needs to be done, how to make it happen. But over the course of the break, right, we start talking next year, we're reaching out, what schools should we talk about next, right? Like where should we be? And we'll be able to find where there's overlap and making stuff happen where there's more established states. Yeah. And then lastly, we got to legalize states in the South, right? We got to make it possible for GTI to show up. Right. And that's where y'all come in. One thing I always tell folks, and especially if we have any lawyers in the room, start writing, in the Mid-Atlantic as well, right? Start writing the legalization bills you want to see, right? If you start writing those bills, you can start finding the elected officials to introduce them. You'll be leading those conversations and legalization will happen in a way that you want it to happen. So we can always get started now, figuring out what we want. And that way, when it's time to turn up in Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi, right, we already got folks ready to go.
And then just to piggyback off of that, because I know we got some law students in here. And I know I'm also tapped in with FAMU law as well. So that's definitely a place where you all can get heavily involved immediately and have an impact now in what's going on. To Jason's point, being the spear and really leading that charge, you all really have a great opportunity to be able to kind of influence and dictate, where we go from here and help us figure out, how do we expand? Where do we need to go to next? We try to do a very good job of covering the South and Mid-Atlantic. And to Jason's point, next summer, and speaking on behalf of Nadir as well, who I know is here as well, we definitely want to expand. That's the plan. We've been talking about it since we initially started. Like 10 schools was like step one. Step one, y'all know the real. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Share ideas. To Jai's point about getting to HBCUs locally and doing mentorships. These are great opportunities to be able to start building those relationships and figuring out what might work for your school and what might work in your area. So let's definitely keep that conversation going. Getting off of my soapbox, we probably got time for like 2 or 3 more questions. How we looking, Toby?
I have a couple. I have one actual question from me. And so a lot of schools, receive federal funding. And with the federal funding, they have to uphold federal laws, certain standards. So with President Biden's call for decriminalization or for pardons and different initiatives regarding marijuana. How do you think it will affect campus policies, and what changes or how soon of a change do you think this will occur?
This is for me. Yep. So it's the rescheduling piece that's actually going to matter for the universities. And so the Controlled Substances Act has 5 different schedules, and different drugs are at each different schedule. It's a political decision where they're all, put. So it's not like a scientific determination. So that also means that politics can move them. And that's what he is saying, is he's instructing his agencies to start to figure out which schedule they're going to put it at. The top one, the worst one, has heroin, LSD, and weed all in the same category, right? Very different drugs. But the middle would be Schedule 3 is like ketamine, right? Like ketamine, if you get caught with it, you can get in trouble. But also we still use it in hospitals, right? Like it is like used in real medicine. And then on Schedule 5 is like codeine, which they're putting in cough medicine, which is some amount of controls. You can't just buy an infinite amount of it, but it's not criminalized in the same way. The biggest difference when it comes to cannabis in universities is the ability to research the plant. And so if you reschedule out of Schedule 1, you put it in a position where you can actually research it. So if you're a student, there's all kinds of things that happen if now universities can research. You can demand that your university tries for it. It opens up federal funding. It also just changes how the universities see about it. Think about the plant, right? Because now there's a financial incentive to them supporting it. That being said, there's already schools studying the plant right now without it being descheduled, right? And so like even my alma mater, University of Connecticut, has a hemp program, right? And they have all kinds of cultivation classes, and they're very popular cultivation classes, right? So the universities can already do it. It would just make it a lot easier. So we do want rescheduling. Descheduling is preferred because it addresses more of the criminal justice aspects of it and just opens it up so that it's no question if you can do it anymore. It's just, it is legal. You can research it, you can grow it, you can sell it, right? Now, your first point though about the universities getting federal funding, this is a very interesting thing we talk about in the harm reduction space. We're actually gonna have a report coming out at the end of the year specifically about the Drug-Free Schools and Communities Act. That law governs universities reporting certain crimes and mandates that schools report accurately the crimes that happen on campus. University administrators often use that law as an excuse not to implement certain programs. They are falsely using the law to say that it prevents them from doing anything. There is no penalty for a university adopting a harm reduction program, for them changing their penalties, for them adopting different academic endeavors. What the law says is you have to have a policy on drug use on your campus. Not that the policy has to have anything specific, not that the policy has to necessarily demonize the drug, just that you have a policy. And so again, it's the Drug-Free Schools and Communities Act. Nina is our former intern that studied this all summer. That's why I know it so intimately now, because we're going to actually have a document that shows all the different programs that currently exist at college campuses. So when administrators use that, it's usually an excuse that they just don't want to do whatever it is that you want to do, because the law actually doesn't prevent them. As long as they're reporting everything appropriately, the federal government will not pull any funding. There's also a separate law that it was when Obama was president. The federal government cannot force a state to adopt a particular policy under threats of losing different funding. So what was happening at the time was that they wanted to push the Medicare expansion. Obama was trying to incentivize all the states to expand Medicare to more people, and said, if you don't do this, we're going to cut other funding. Supreme Court said you can't do that. You can't threaten the states with like cutting education funding if they don't adopt a healthcare policy. And so there's actually 2 layers of why they're full of it when they use that excuse. And so, I encourage you, if that happens, ask them for their justification in writing, and then forward me the email. We can talk about it.
Just know you will hear from me soon.
Absolutely. I love it. Trust me, I'm ready with the citations on that one.
And for the final question, I would like to pass it back to DeAndre.
I'll make this one real quick. Ja, I was reading an article that you were getting interviewed, and you were talking about your personal goals for 2022. You noted that you want to help create a seat at the table for Black entrepreneurs, vendors, suppliers, and cannabis advocates. With 2022 almost coming to an end, how has your goal been?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I feel like we've made significant progress in some of those areas, and in some there's still work that needs to be done. But I always say that this type of work is never ending. There will never be a day where, there's not a need to create a space at a table for people to not fight to ensure that people have a space at the table. Because recently someone asked me something similar to that, asked me, what grade do you give? And I'm like, it's really no grade, because this work continues. There is no stop. We don't stop. And so, we just, try to continue to make progress, but definitely we've implemented DE&I efforts to create more inclusive employee resource groups at GTI to make sure people have a space to really gather and to talk about, to gather in a community that is inclusive to their background, whether it be the LGBTQ community, Black community, women, caregivers, parents. And so we've done that. We've worked with a number of entrepreneurs that I showed on that slide, like our academy, where they work with the mentoring program for brands of color, as well as, and we're in talks with them also to support their efforts in the coming year. And then as well as working with a number of Black-owned entrepreneurs, whether it be Roll Up Life out of New Jersey or the Illinois Cannabis Training Center. The vendor piece, that's one that has multiple layers that when coming in, it's something that is definitely going to be a 2022, 2023 type of project because, our academy, all right, Scotty, you familiar with our academy? Right? They're amazing. I love Hillary. But that vendor piece, it's the big question, like the big question a lot of people are asking about, like, how do we get more business of color into this cannabis space to support our everyday business operations, whether it be who's handling our, who's the electrician, who are the folks we're hiring to do the construction, the real estate agents, all of those components. And so that's definitely something. So this year, our focus has been on building the infrastructure and system to actually pull in that data to show us where we are, because we don't know where we need to go until we know where exactly we are. So we definitely have developed partnerships with individual organizations that have the business owners that are willing to work with us. But then it's developing that infrastructure of like how we categorize them in our systems and building those systems. So I had a whole tech intro into like the systems that have to be built, ERP systems to pull in that vendor data. So that's definitely going to be a hot priority, as well as like brand diversity, and our retail stores to identify where we can, who are on our shelves, or do we have a diverse group of brands on our shelves? So that's definitely something we're looking at still. So I wouldn't say we've achieved that goal, because it's something that should continue and it's still continuing, but definitely we've looked at our priority markets and have had some great success in terms of, we actually just hosted a giveaway with our brand Mota that's sold at our a lot of our dispensaries. It's a Latino owned glass. They make really beautiful bongs. So they we I don't know if I'm supposed to be telling y'all this, y'all not over 21. But
Oh.
giveaway. So